Hey guys, welcome to Y&R Daily Update YouTube channel. Today's topics: The Young and the Restless, the shocking truths of Jill, Billy, and came the return of Jill to Genoa City was like a seismic tremor, its vibrations, subtle at first, but soon, threatening to shake the foundations of every family secret carefully buried over decades. Her mere presence in the halls of the Abbott estate was enough to draw uneasy stares and hush the usual whisperings into pregnant silences. But few, not even Billy, could have foreseen the chilling revelations she was about to deliver, or the cascading chaos they would unleash. Billy had never expected his world to unravel at the hands of his own mother. When he entered Kane's private suite in the Abbott mansion, his mind was a whirlpool of suspicion and anger. Jill had called him, her voice cryptic, but urgent. Billy knew she'd been spending more and more time away, especially since Colin's sudden illness. But it was only now, with Jill standing before him, her posture tense and her eyes rimmed with sleeplessness, that he realized how little he understood of her recent absences. Without preamble, Jill announced that she needed to discuss Kane. The way she spoke, so formal, so careful, triggered an immediate defense in Billy, whose mistrust for Kane had only grown since the failed merger attempt with Chancellor. But Jill Unc LL's next words would blindside him. She revealed that Kane was not just another rival, not just a manipulator or a user. He was, in fact, Billy's half-brother, born from an affair Jill had tried her entire life to forget. The silence that followed was oppressive, but in Billy's mind, it was as if all sound had ceased forever. He stared at Jill, his anger instantly morphing into confusion, disbelief, and then a tidal wave of memories. The cold glances, the unexplained favors, the secrets between Kane and Jill that never seemed quite right. Billy demanded an explanation. He wanted facts, not platitudes, and he wanted them now. Jill admitted that during her years of tumult, long before her marriage to John Abbott, she'd fallen for a man whose name she refused to speak. That man was Kane's father. The admission left Billy speechless. But Jill pressed on, telling him that after Kane's birth, she was forced by circumstance to let him go. She'd kept track of him from afar, heartbroken but powerless. Especially after Collins's machinations further complicated the truth. Kane, for his part, had only recently learned the full scope of his parentage, prompting his own secret search for Jill, one that ultimately led to their clandestine reunion in France during Colin's final days. This bombshell rattled Billy's core. For a moment, he was unable to process the implications. His rival was his brother, a man he'd spent years loathing, undermining, competing against in both business and love. The emotional whiplash left him raw and exposed, questioning every feud and every alliance. Did Kane know all along? Had Jill plotted this to humiliate him? Or was this yet another tragic misfire of fate that defined the Abbott family legacy? In the tense aftermath, Billy cornered Kane in his room. The air was heavy, the tension palpable. Billy's voice trembled with suppressed rage as he challenged Kane. Was it true? Had he been plotting to seize Abbott Communications as some twisted form of revenge or simply as a business conquest? And what about Sally, Billy's own confidant and Kane's former flame? What did Kane plan for her and for the entire team that had trusted him in smaller ventures? Kane's answer was cold and strategic. He told Billy that Sally and the others could remain, but under his authority, they would be accountable only to him. He didn't deny his ambition. On the contrary, he made it clear that Abbott Communications was just the beginning. Billy tried to deflect, insisting all he wanted was control of Chancellor, but Kane's smirk was patronizing. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. You think too small, Billy, he replied. I'm thinking on a scale that will eclipse Chancellor and the entire Abbott legacy. This is about power, not sentimentality. The confrontation escalated as Phyllis entered the room. Quick to read the tension, she teased Billy, suggesting his interest in Chancellor was more about getting under Jill's skin than any real business ambition. Her phone rang suddenly. Her daughter on the line, pulling her away and leaving Billy and Kane alone once more. With Phyllis gone, the mood darkened. Kane admitted with a glimmer of something like regret that his relationship with Jill had only rekindled after Colin's illness. Jill had sought solace with Kane at his chateau in France, the two bonding over shared regrets and unspoken wounds. Billy, unable to restrain his bitterness, spat that Jill's prodigal bastard had returned just in time to user him. Kane denied it was about replacing Billy, but the damage was done. The conversation devolved. Accusations flying about secrets, betrayals, and whether Jill had known Cain was really Aristotle Dumas, the infamous alias he'd used for years. Phyllis re-entered in time to catch the tail end of this war of words, rolling her eyes at what she called drama over nothing. But Billy was determined to get to the bottom of it. Alone in the library, he called Jill, his voice cold but desperate for answers. She picked up, sounding guarded but vulnerable. He warned her that what she said next could destroy any hope of reconciliation. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Jill, torn between her maternal love and her own guilt, confessed that she'd lived in fear of this day of the truth emerging and fracturing her family for good. As Billy rotated his phone camera to reveal Cain standing there, Jill's heart clenched. Cain, smiling with practiced ease, greeted her warmly, but the undertone was unmistakable. The power dynamic in this family had shifted forever. Billy demanded to know if Jill had known about Aristotle Dumas all along, if she'd knowingly let him into their inner circle. Jill hesitated, but ultimately admitted that she'd been aware for months, maybe even years, that Cain's secret life was more than a business persona. It was a shield against pain, a way to survive in a world that had never truly accepted him. What followed was an emotional standoff, with Billy accusing his mother of betrayal, Cain holding on to his new position with the steely determination of a man who had waited his entire life for validation, and Jill caught in the crossfire, haunted by the ghosts of her own choices. The revelation that Billy and Cain were brothers, bound by blood but divided by ambition, set the stage for a war not only for the Abbot and Chancellor empires, but for the very soul of their family. As the dust settled, the lines were drawn. Cain's hunger for power, Jill's desperate attempts to mend old wounds, and Billy's struggle to accept the truth, all spiraled into a maelstrom of corporate intrigue and personal vendetta. Phyllis, ever the wild card, watched from the sidelines, torn between her loyalty to Billy and her fascination with Cain's ruthless drive. Sally, uncertain of her own future, prepared for whatever storms might come, knowing that her fate, like so many others, now hinged on the outcome of this twisted family reckoning. The Abbott mansion, once a sanctuary, became a battleground. Old alliances shattered, new schemes took root, and every character found themselves forced to choose between loyalty and ambition, between the comforting lies of the past and the dangerous truths of the present. In the end, the question was no longer whether Jill would reveal everything, but whether any of them could survive the consequences of her honesty. The Young and the Restless, the battle for truth and power. The revelation Jill unleashed was only the opening volley in a much larger war that would consume the Abbott, Chancellor, and Asheb families. The storm had only begun to gather over Genoa City. In the hours that followed Jill's confession, the mansion became an arena of secrets and shifting allegiances. Every corridor echoing with accusations, confessions, and the uneasy footsteps of people hiding from their own pasts. Billy's hands trembled as he ended the call with Jill. The truth nodded at him. Cain was his brother. Jill had lied for decades, and now the whole family empire was in jeopardy. Rage pulsed through his veins, but beneath it was a profound ache of betrayal and abandonment. A wound he could not show anyone, not even Phyllis. Cain, emboldened by his new status, wasted no time. He summoned Sally, summoning her to his office. With the cold authority of a man who had nothing left to lose, Sally, smart enough to sense a shift in the power dynamic, listened quietly as Cain explained his vision. Abbott Communications Chancellor, even the very legacy of the Abbott family. He would unify them under his control. He offered Sally a new role, one that promised more power than she'd ever imagined, but only if she proved her absolute loyalty. Sally, torn between ambition and principle, hesitated, knowing that every decision she made now would have consequences far beyond her own future. Meanwhile, Jill found herself hunted by her own ghosts. She sat alone in her suite at the Grand Phoenix, the city lights flickering against the window like the memories she couldn't erase. The phone buzzed again. This time it was Victor. He'd heard whispers of Jill's return and demanded a private meeting. Their conversation was fraught with history. Victor was always one step ahead, and he suspected Jill was hiding more than she let on. He threatened to expose her secrets to the board if she didn't align with him in the coming war for Chancellor Abbott and the Ashby fortune. Phyllis, never want to be left out of a scheme, saw an opportunity in the chaos. She began shadowing Cain, digging into his mysterious French estate, his business dealings, and especially his secret life as Aristotle Dumas. Phyllis soon discovered a string of encrypted communications, messages sent to someone in Australia and a series of secret payments to an unknown recipient. She realized that Kane's past and perhaps even his true motives were far darker than Jill had admitted. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. As the sun set over the Abbott mansion, Billy, unable to rest, searched for answers the only way he knew, by confronting pain hidden. He stormed into Kane's room, the two men facing off in the dying light. Billy accused Kane of using his new status as a weapon, of manipulating Jill, of seeking vengeance for years of exile and resentment. Kane, however, was unmoved. He confessed that learning the truth about his parentage had shattered his own identity, but he was done playing the victim. "For the first time, I know who I am, and I won't let anyone take that from me again," Kane said, his voice low but unyielding. The confrontation reached its peak when Billy demanded to know what would happen to Jill. Would Kane cast her aside the moment she outlived her usefulness? Kane hesitated, then revealed the existence of a will. A secret document Colin had drawn up before his illness, which could change the line of succession in both the Ashby and Chancellor empires. If exposed, it could strip Billy and his allies of everything, handing total control to Kane and those who aligned with him. The threat hung in the air like a guillotine. At that moment, Nikki entered the room, summoned by Sally's cryptic text. Nikki, never one to shrink from conflict, immediately sided with Billy, warning Kane that Genoa City was not as easily conquered as he imagined. She urged Billy to seek support from the old guard, Victor, Jack, even Ashley, before Kane could consolidate power. But Billy, still reeling, could barely focus. His family was collapsing, and every old wound was split open by Jill's betrayal. Elsewhere, Jill herself was spiraling. She met secretly with Esther in the garden, confessing her fears that she had doomed both her sons by trying to protect them. Esther, loyal as ever, offered comfort. But Jill's guilt was overwhelming. She realized too late that the lies she'd spun to shield her children had become shackles, binding everyone she loved to a future of distrust and suspicion. In Paris, an entirely different game was playing out. Colin, presumed to be on his deathbed, made a sudden recovery and contacted Jill from his hidden clinic. His message was clear. The truth is not what you think. Kane has his secrets, but so do you. Panic seized Jill. Had Colin orchestrated the entire sequence of events to force her hand? Did he know something even she did not? She booked a flight to France, determined to confront the past once and for all. Back in Genoa City, as rumors of Jill's departure spread, board members at Chancellor and Abbott Communications began to choose sides. Some, embittered by Billy's recklessness, sided with Kane. Others, fearful of Kane's ruthless style, began plotting to remove him. A shadowy figure emerged in the background. Someone from Kane's Australian past, lurking in Genoa City's streets, watching, waiting, holding secrets that could destroy not only Kane, but everyone he claimed to love. The stakes climbed higher with every passing hour. Sally, after much soul-searching, agreed to play along with Kane, secretly hoping to gain enough evidence to take him down. Phyllis uncovered a coded ledger detailing embezzlement and offshore accounts. But before she could act, someone hacked her computer, erasing everything. Panic gripped her. Who else was watching? Who else wanted these secrets to stay buried? In a final twist, Billy received an anonymous package, inside a faded photograph of two infants, one unmistakably Kane, the other bearing a striking resemblance to Billy himself. On the back, a cryptic message. Blood never lies, but the heart always deceives. Billy realized then that the truth was even more complicated than Jill had confessed. There was another player, another sibling perhaps, or another secret parentage, someone lurking in the shadows, ready to upend everything. As thunder cracked over the city, the families of Genoa City found themselves caught in a war where loyalty could be lethal, and every truth had the power to destroy. Jill, haunted and desperate, raced against time to reach Colin in France, her only hope of saving her sons from the fallout of her choices. Kane and Billy, now bound by blood but divided by ambition and pain, prepared for the next battle, knowing that no alliance was permanent, and no secret would stay hidden forever. And so the saga continued. Every love, every betrayal, every whispered thread, a stepping stone toward the next explosive revelation. In Genoa City, family was never safe, and the most dangerous truths were still to come. The walls of the Newman estate had always witnessed secrets and power games, but the string of murders in recent weeks had left a darkness lingering in every corner. For Nikki, the tragedies were a suffocating reminder of how fragile peace truly was. Chancellor's murder still haunted her dreams, and now with Cole's sudden death, The world seemed to be collapsing under the weight of Victor's vendettas. Nikki was tired. Tired of grief. Tired of the cold cycle of retribution. She confronted Victor with all the desperation and heartbreak that had built up over the years. "I'm begging you, Victor. Let it go," she pleaded one evening, her voice trembling as she clutched a faded photograph of Cole and Chance. "How many more lives must we lose before you see that hatred only breeds more tragedy? These men were good enough that their loss should haunt us, not fuel more anger. For once, can you just let go of the feud with the Abbotts?" Her words hung in the air, echoing against the vast silence of their home. Victor was unmoved, at least outwardly. His face was as cold as stone, the set of his jaw betraying only the faintest crack in his armor. "I want Cole's memorial to be private, Nikki. No press, no outsiders, just family," he insisted, as if the intimacy of the event could contain the pain. Nikki's frustration boiled over. "Do you even hear yourself? You're always shutting out everything you don't want to face. And now you're picking fights with Kyle of all people." Her voice broke, not from anger, but from exhaustion. Victor's silence was more damning than words. He could not admit that his grief was tangled up with pride, that every new loss felt like another wound in a war he had never truly won. But the consequences of his choices continued to ripple outwards, poisoning every relationship, every future hope. Meanwhile, in another part of Genoa City, Kay followed Claire to the observation deck, a place where the world seemed smaller, the sky wider, and secrets could be spoken freely. Claire was on edge, her hands restless as she stared into the distance. "I'm just angry, Kyle, angry at all of it. At Victor, at this family, at all the things I can't control." Her voice was brittle, but there was a new strength in it, a refusal to keep shrinking under the Newman shadow. "I think my father would be proud I finally stood up to Victor." Pal tried to comfort her, reminding her that anger fades and wounds heal. "You won't hate him forever. None of you ask can," he said gently. But Claire shook her head. "You don't understand, Kyle. Today, Victor crossed a line. And I don't know if anything can ever be right again. He reminds me of Jordan. Controlling, relentless, always demanding more." She looked him in the eye, her expression fierce. "I won't live like that anymore. I won't let anyone dictate my life again." Before Kyle could answer, Audra arrived, her presence as disruptive as ever. She offered Kyle his phone charger, her tone teasing and sly. "You must have left it in my sleeper car when we were prepping the cane pitch. Remember that night with the cocktails?" Kyle denied it, but Audra pressed on, making it clear she wanted Claire to hear every insinuation. "Nobody else has been in my room. It's yours. Unless you want it back, I'll just keep it." Claire watched the exchange, her anger now tinged with suspicion and weariness. After Kyle and Claire left, Audra's mask slipped. She glanced at her phone, reading Victor's summons with a mixture of dread and anticipation. Arriving at the ranch, she tried to sound confident. "I planted the seeds of doubt between Claire and Kyle. That bomb is ticking, Victor." But Victor was unimpressed, his patience wearing thin. "We had an agreement, Audra. You failed your part. That means my support for your company is over. I'll close it down today." Audra's eyes widened with fear. Her whole future hung in the balance. Across town, Claire and Kyle wandered into a tack shop, the tension from earlier still hanging between them. Claire paused beside a display of riding boots, her face suddenly softer as she turned to her mother, Victoria, who was waiting there. "I'm ready to move on, Mom. I want to live with Kyle. Start over. Just us." For the first time in days, Victoria smiled. She placed a hand on Claire's shoulder, her eyes shining with both pride and worry. "You have my blessing, sweetheart. You deserve happiness." But as the shadows lengthened over Genoa City, it became clear that none of them could escape the consequences of the past. Nikki wandered the darkened halls of the ranch, haunted by the ghosts of all they had lost. She watched Victor from afar, her heart breaking as she realized the man she loved might never be free of his demons. Across town, Audrey plotted her next move, desperate not to lose everything she had fought for, even if it meant betraying every last one of her allies. Claire and Kyle, for a fleeting moment, found hope in each other's arms. But the wounds left by Victor's manipulations and the secrets Audra had unleashed would soon threaten to tear them apart. In a world where love and loyalty were so easily weaponized, could any couple truly find peace? Subscribe our channel for more latest update. The episode of The Young and the Restless unfolds with the dramatic return of Jill Abbott to Genoa City. triggering a chain reaction of family secrets and corporate power struggles. Jill reveals to her son Billy that Kane, a longtime rival in business and love, is actually his half-brother, born from an affair Jill had tried to bury. This revelation shakes the Abbott family's foundations, casting doubt and suspicion across long-held alliances. Kane, recently reunited with Jill during Colin's illness in France, boldly asserts his ambition to control the Abbott and Chancellor empires, challenging Billy's authority and threatening to upend the family legacy. Tensions escalate with confrontations between Billy and Kane, exposing Kane's ruthless intentions and his strategic plan to unify their family's business empires under his control. Phyllis, Billy's confidant, grows suspicious of Kane's secretive past and uncovers encrypted communications hinting at darker motives. Meanwhile, Jill wrestles with guilt over her decades of deception and fears the destruction her truths may bring. Parallel to the Abbott family drama, the Newman estate is engulfed in grief and unresolved vendettas following recent murders, with Nicky urging Victor to end his relentless feud with the Abbotts. Conflicted characters like Claire and Kyle seek new beginnings, but their relationships are strained by Victor's manipulations and the looming shadows of past betrayals. The episode closes with multiple storylines converging: power plays within the Abbott and Chancellor businesses, personal vendettas fueled by old wounds, and simmering threats from mysterious figures connected to Kane's past. Loyalties are tested, secrets threaten to explode, and the families of Genoa City brace for an uncertain and turbulent future. The narrative sets the stage for a prolonged battle for truth, power, and survival, where no alliance is safe and every revelation could prove lethal. Highlights: Jill's return reveals Kane as Billy's half-brother, igniting family turmoil. Kane aims to seize control of the Abbott and Chancellor empires, escalating corporate rivalry. Phyllis discovers encrypted messages hinting at Kane's dark secrets and hidden agenda. Jill's decades-long secrets fracture the Abbott family's trust and unity. Billy and Kane's confrontation exposes deep-seated resentment and competing ambitions. Nicky pleads with Victor to end the destructive vendetta fueled by recent family tragedies. Mysterious figures from Kane's past lurk in Genoa City, threatening to unravel all alliances. Key insights: family secrets as a catalyst for conflict. Jill's revelation that Kane is Billy's half-brother is a classic soap opera twist that fundamentally redefines their relationship. This secret, hidden for decades, acts as a ticking time bomb, destabilizing family dynamics and business alliances. The emotional weight of hidden parentage underscores how past choices continue to haunt the present and fuel ongoing conflicts. Power struggles reflect broader themes of legacy and ambition. Kane's ambition to not just compete but dominate the Abbott and Chancellor empires symbolizes a broader struggle for legacy control. His assertion that he is thinking on a scale beyond Billy's vision highlights generational clashes and differing philosophies on power. Kane's ruthless pragmatism versus Billy's more sentimental ties to family heritage. The role of secrets and deception in corporate intrigue. Phyllis's discovery of encrypted communications and secret payments reveals the depth of covert operations behind Kane's rise. These elements emphasize how corporate battles in Genoa City are not just about surface-level competition, but involve espionage, betrayal, and manipulation. The hacking of Phyllis's computer underscores the high stakes and dangers involved. Maternal guilt and the burden of truth. Jill's internal struggle with revealing the truth about Kane's parentage and her past choices highlights the complex role of maternal figures in family dramas. Her guilt and fear of fracturing the family reveal how protective intentions can inadvertently cause damage, demonstrating the double-edged nature of secrets told to shield loved ones. Sibling rivalry, amplified by business and personal betrayals. The confrontation between Billy and Kane is loaded with personal history, resentment, and betrayal. Their battle is not only about corporate control but also about identity, acceptance, and validation. Kane's refusal to be a victim and his declaration of self-ownership contrasts with Billy's emotional turmoil, reflecting divergent coping mechanisms within family conflict. Interwoven personal and corporate vendettas fuel ongoing drama. The storyline involving Nicky and Victor's feud, including the impact of recent murders, adds layers of grief and vengeance to the power struggles. Nicky's plea for peace juxtaposes with Victor's cold determination, illustrating how personal loss often hardens characters and perpetuates cycles of violence and retaliation in Genoa City. Unseen threats and the shadow of the past. The emergence of a mysterious figure from Kane's Australian past and the cryptic package sent to Billy hint at even deeper secrets and potential new players in the unfolding drama. This element introduces suspense and unpredictability, suggesting that the current conflicts are just the surface of a much larger, more dangerous game involving hidden family members or enemies. Complex loyalties and fragile relationships. Characters like Sally and Phyllis are caught between ambition, loyalty, and survival. Sally's hesitant alliance with Kane and Phyllis's investigation reflect the precarious balancing act many must perform in this environment. Loyalty becomes a currency as valuable and risky as power, with characters constantly their positions. Thematic exploration of truth versus survival. The episode grapples with the question of whether truth can ever coexist with survival in a world rife with deception. Jill's confession sets off a chain reaction that threatens to destroy relationships and empires, raising the fundamental question of whether honesty is a strength or a liability in Genoa City's cutthroat environment. Emotional fallout and psychological depth beyond the external drama. The episode delves into the psychological states of key characters: Jill's guilt, Billy's betrayal and rage, Kane's quest for identity, Nikki's grief, and Claire's anger at being controlled. These emotional undercurrents provide depth to the storyline, making the characters' decisions and conflicts resonate on a human level. Setting the stage for future explosive revelations. The closing moments hint at even more secrets and battles to come, with the family's fate hanging in the balance. The blend of personal vendettas, corporate warfare, and shadowy pasts promises ongoing suspense and dramatic twists, ensuring that Genoa City remains a hotbed of intrigue and emotional upheaval. Conclusion: this episode of The Young and the Restless masterfully intertwines family secrets, corporate power plays, and personal vendettas to create a compelling narrative full of suspense and emotional complexity. Jill's shocking revelation about Kane's true identity sets off a cascade of conflict that challenges loyalties and forces characters to confront painful truths. The interplay between ambition and family legacy, coupled with the looming presence of unseen threats, ensures that the drama will continue to unfold with high stakes and unpredictable twists. The episode not only advances the plot but deepens character development, making it a rich chapter in the ongoing saga of Genoa City.